Record. All right, and thank you and welcome everybody to the Phasis Group Front Office Dashboard Training Webinar, part of our free webinar series. And we've got lots of stuff planned for the rest of 2015, so watch for our emails. And thank you very much for participating. It's your participation that makes this all worthwhile. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to start with this slide presentation, and I'm having trouble making it work. Well, that's too bad. Let's do this. Start slideshow, page down. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to run through a brief PowerPoint presentation just to kind of set your expectations and understand what the webinar is going to be delivering. And we're going to have Cheryl Thomas, who is our head of support, will be walking through the different elements of the dashboard. And then we're going to leave ample time at the end to answer any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first thing you might be asking is, what in the heck is the front office dashboard? And when you log into CareTracker, if you go to the dashboard and click on the Practice Dashboard tab here, you're going to be presented with a full dashboard that has not only the front office portion that you're seeing here, but also a clinical section and a billing section. Today's webinar is designed around the front office portion of the dashboard, which you're seeing on the screenshot here. And essentially what this does is this organizes work that the front office staff typically would do into these work lists that you can get to quickly. And Cheryl's going to show you how, from the blue hyperlink, you can actually launch in and see the different patients that need attention and how you're actually going to work that. Now, the thought behind the dashboard is that we want to maximize the provider's productivity, and by that I don't mean make them get through a patient visit faster, but what we're really talking about is we don't want to have any missing appointments, or we don't want people on the schedule that you're not going to get paid for. So the idea here is leveraging the tools that CareTracker gives you to make sure that the schedule is as full as possible, that there's a minimal amount of time that the providers are not seeing patients, and that all the patients that you are seeing are going to be a patient that you can get paid on. So that's that pre-screening portion. You want to make sure that you accept the insurance, their benefits are up to date. If they're going to owe you a deductible, give you the opportunity to collect it up front if you know that that is there. Then there's also following up on items. You may have patients who wanted a newer appointment if one became available. And along the lines of maximizing that provider productivity, the waiting list is going to help you with that. There's also the idea of patients that might leverage the patient portal, and maybe they make an appointment request through the patient portal. You've also got the concept of the visibility around appointments that maybe haven't been turned into encounter forms, or encounter forms that haven't been turned into charges. And oftentimes there are patient billing items that you're going to have where they're not in the office. If your physicians see any of the patients in the hospital, they may need to round on them. Sometimes those could be billable. It might not just always be a follow-up to the surgery. And so in the dashboard, there's functionality to allow you to kind of view admissions and that type of thing. All right, so the patient section, which is the first section that Cheryl's going to be working on, centers around eligibility. And this is the coordination between the front desk, who is talking to the patient initially, booking their appointment, greeting them when they come in, collecting co-pays or balances due. It's coordinating those functions with the billing functions, getting the claim out the door. So there's an eligibility piece, There is the patient portal area where patients can actually update their demographics and save you a little bit of time with having to gather that. Missing patient information, very important, because if you've got a patient in and the only thing you have in there is their name and you don't have insurance information, or you're missing their date of birth, you want to catch that early, hopefully before the patient leaves, so that when you hand that off to billing, they're not just coming right back to you saying, hey, excuse me, you didn't get all the information. In a similar way, if a patient books an appointment and then they have a change of insurance that someone puts in kind of after the fact, that's not always clear. And so there's a piece of the patient section of the dashboard that alerts you to when new patient insurance has been added. And then there's correspondence. This is the follow-up. So whether it be practice letters, recall letters, collection letters, anything that you might actually print paper copies and send out, it's got a piece in the patient section that allows you to monitor that. The appointment section, this is about maximizing the provider's productivity. It's about keeping the patient full, making sure that the patients have confirmed their appointment, allows you to get visibility around possible double bookings or where you've got an appointment conflict. And if you use recurring appointments where a patient may need to come in maybe every 2 weeks or something like that, it will also alert you to the fact that you've got some recurring appointments that are coming to the end and allow you to get them back on the schedule for future appointments. And lastly, we have the visit section. And this is the real coordination between billing. One of the things that we encourage is that the billing department and the office staff have a lot of two-way communication. And of course, there's a whole to-do section, a messaging piece of CareTracker, and then also a mail section that allow you to also manage that. But the missing encounters, open admissions, missing admissions, visits on hold, and charges on hold, these are all tools that are there for you to make sure that you don't have unbilled charges, you don't have patients that we're seeing and we haven't identified what needs to be billed out for them. It's a way to maximize the productivity and the financial side of the practice. Okay, so I'm about ready to hand off to Cheryl, but I want to mention a couple of things. The first thing is that this session is going to be recorded, and it will be available at our website at www.phasisgroup.com. You would go to the events and resources, I'm sorry, not events, but resources, and within the resources tab, you're going to see a Phasis webinar tab, and there's going to be a series of demos there that you can watch. This webinar is one of them. In addition, in the help section of CareTracker, there's recorded training, and there is a wonderful recorded session that goes into great detail, very similar to what Cheryl is going to show you, and you can watch that at any time. Also in the online training is a quiz. There are PM and EMR task sheets which will help you manage the dashboard, kind of remind you what needs to be looked at daily, weekly, monthly, that type of thing. And there's also a user guide and the whole training, written training documentation that goes around this session. In addition, if you just go to help and instead of going to the training, if you just use the actual online manual, there is a whole front office training section there or user guide section. So any of the individual tasks that Cheryl is going to demonstrate for you, if you needed to get some help on that, the user guide would allow you to drill down to that point. You can also use the search mechanism. The user guide is very good at telling you how the function is and what the field is used for. What the user guide is not good at is how to deal with exceptions and unusual scenarios. And that's where our support line is open, to-dos. If you send a to-do to support, Cheryl will get it, and she would be able to provide you with answers. That to-do process is something that really we strongly urge you guys to use for support questions. Okay, before I have Cheryl jump in and demonstrate the front office dashboard and click into all the different pieces, are there any questions that we have from anybody, or any technical issues we need to resolve before we move forward?
Well, Bruce, this is Paula. I had to take a business call, and so what is Cheryl's last name, please?
So can you say that again? I was having trouble hearing. Cheryl, did you hear that question?
I'm sorry, I did not. Can you repeat your question for us?
Hang on just a minute.
They asked what Cheryl's last name was, and it's Thomas.
Hey, hang on just a minute. I apologize. What is Cheryl's last name for IT support?
Cheryl Thomas. Now, she's not going to be in the pull down. What you need to do, and I can have Cheryl show you this first. When you send it to do, rather than sending it as an inter-office to do where you won't see Cheryl's name, you'd simply send it to the support center and she'll get it. So we can definitely show you that. Is that why you were interested in what her name was? Is to be able to do the to-do? Okay.
Yes.
Yep, we'll show you that. That was an excellent question. Thank you for asking it. Any other comments? Nope. Okay, Cheryl, are you prepared to take the handoff?
I am ready.
Okay, when you're done with the handoff, with the demo, before we go to the question and answer, I have one last slide with the kind of the lessons that we've learned. So when we get to that point, cue me and I'll take it back.
Okay.
All right, so right now I'm going to make Cheryl Thomas the presenter, and we're going to start viewing her screen. Thank you, Cheryl. Take it away.
All right. Good morning, everyone. And can everyone see my screen now? And you should be seeing the CareTracker home dashboard. So since we had that question, if it's okay with you, Matt, I'm going to just really quickly show the to-do, how it would go to support. So when you go to send a to-do, it defaults to this inner office, but when you want to send it to me, since I'm not going to be in your drop-down, we're going to change that category to Support Center. That will automatically send it to the Phasis Support Center, and one of us will be able to pick it up. Most of the time it will be me, but doing it this way assures that if I'm not right there available that day, someone is monitoring that queue all the time. So that will be the best way for you to send those to-dos through. Okay. All right, the first, I'm just going to kind of go down the list here. So the first one we have is eligibility. This one we can really dig into it. So if any of you after today want more training on any of these subjects, please reach out to one of us because we can get a little bit more involved with them. Eligibility, CareTracker has the ability to look at your schedule 3 days ahead of time, and it will go out and automatically check the eligibility for those payers that participate in electronic eligibility, and if you've got all the necessary information on the patient demographic. So one of the nice things is you can come into this screen, and I'm going to click this little plus sign, which is going to open up some additional filters for us. We're going to look at today's date, so we're looking at today's appointments, and it's going to default to show us any of those that are ineligible or unknown. So those that it went through and it found they were eligible, we don't have to mess with those. We're going to let the system do that for us, but we're only going to look at those that might have a problem. So I'm going to hit go, and we've got one person on here that is ineligible, Big Bob, and it says unknown. So status unknown usually means it couldn't check for some reason. Either maybe the payer doesn't participate in electronic eligibility, there was some reason it couldn't connect to the payer, or maybe we didn't have enough information on that patient's demographic sheet to be able to check. Ineligible will also show up under status to let you know that that patient was ineligible. And I'm going to just really quickly show the eligible to let you show, that's kind of cute that that one came up eligible, to show you that these two were checked and said that they checked them and everything was good. Oh, Sally patient, we did it manually. So somebody has gone in and said, because Cofinity doesn't...
That was me yesterday, sorry.
That's okay. Because Cofinity doesn't participate with electronic eligibility checking, we can go in there and manually add that we've checked that. So that she's not going to keep popping up saying she's ineligible. So we can go in and add it that we've called it, we've verified, and we know she's eligible. Any questions so far on the eligibility piece?
Cheryl, why don't you show how on the eligible item for me, for that patient, Matt Crew, how the history happens to show?
Okay. All right, so if we go into Matt, the history doesn't, oh, here we go, here. So if we're working off of this lesson, we want to see how frequently it's been checked or what has happened in the past. This button down here that says history will give us some information, maybe.
Might be a little go-to-meeting glitchiness, so never mind. When you show the eligibility for me...
I'm going to just pull it up here because if we hit this eligibility button, patient and context, hit the eligibility button, it'll give us the same information. This one seemed to work a little bit faster. So you'll see here, you can see the status of what we received, the date it was checked, and what insurance company. If the patient has more than one insurance, you're going to see this on the drop-down. This guy only has one, but we could see if he has a secondary, you can change that and run that for the secondary.
Go ahead and click on inactive, and you'll see the old ones.
Oh, there we go. It won't let me.
Okay. We apologize. When we run GoToMeeting, it plays around with the browser a little bit, and some of the stuff, it doesn't work like it does when we're not in the GoToMeeting.
The automated system, the one that's going to run automatic, is only going to check primary insurances for you, though. So if you do want to check secondaries, you're going to have to do those manually. It will only check the primary. Okay, any questions? Is there anything I've left out there, Matt? Are we good with eligibility? And again, eligibility can get a little complicated sometimes, so if any of you want more information or feel like you want more training on that part of it, please let one of us know. Okay, we're going to move on. The next one is the patient portal updates. This, if you are participating in the patient portal and you've allowed this feature in your portal, the patient has the ability to log into the portal and say, oh, hey, by the way, I have a new address, or I've got a new phone number, or whatever else part of their demographics may have changed. The system is not going to just automatically go onto that account and change it, though. You need to approve it before it allows that to do so. So Susie Q has gone and said, hey, I have a new address. So you're going to click onto her name, and it'll kind of show you, we get our little flag, it'll show you the current information of what we have in CareTracker, and here is what she has said, this is my new information. And then you have the ability to accept or deny. Once we accept it, it will go in and it will update her address. So now if we come up here and we look at Susie, we will see that she now has that as her new home address. So it will go in, and there is a feature, I believe, in the portal also that they can change their billing address. We only chose the home one for this demonstration, but they can change phone numbers, all kinds of stuff. But you do have to go in and either accept or deny that request. Allows you to have a little bit of control over what's going in there. Next on your dashboard number, you'll see since we took care of Susie, that's now gone to 0, just to let us know we don't have anything in there that needs attention. The next one on the list is missing patient information. If you've got an account that is missing some kind of information, it's going to give you a flag there or populate that to let you know you need to go in and pay attention to this. Sally patient is missing her subscriber number on her primary insurance, or it isn't valid number. You can get a patient come into this category if you're missing a date of birth, a gender, it's, you know, all of those things that are necessary for claims to go out the door. This is going to alert you here. You can just click on the name from here. It will bring them up into context, and then you can go in and edit the information really quickly, correct whatever it is you need to do, save it, and then you're on your way. The next one down then is new insurance. Now when we click into new insurance, it gives us the option of the days that the last insurance was changed. It defaults to 30, but if we want to change that and we want to look at anything that was changed in the last 10 days, whatever, we can do that. Generally what this will do, let's see if we can get something on here, is if a patient has an open charge on their account, and you've gone in and changed the insurance in their demographics, it's going to alert you here to say maybe that other charge also needs to be billed over to that new insurance that you've just added. Not always, but it gives you an alert to say you want to look at it and make sure. So again, by clicking on her name, we're going to pull her into context, and we can go into her edit screen here and see that we've added Aetna here. So when we go into her open items, we had this one on that was billed to the private pay. That's more than, maybe this one didn't work. Maybe it was Cigna that we added. Sorry. So if we've added Blue Shield, Blue Cross, we can go in there and see anything open. Do we need to bill those over to the new insurance that's on there? So just kind of alert you that there's been a new insurance added on the account and there's open balances. Do we need to go look at them and make sure that we're not billing an old insurance or we're not billing the patient, and you can get that claim to the correct payer much faster. Okay, next one we have is unprinted correspondence. So as we're going along, if we're creating letters, batch letters, or things like that that you're not printing immediately off, these will come into here to say these things have not yet been printed. And so it'll give you a list. We've got some patient letters. We can open it and take a look at what it was. Maybe. I'm not going to wait for that. But then we can select whether we want to print them or not. We can select all of them, or we can just go down and say, I just want to print this one right here. And then go ahead and give them prints. We do have filters here, so you can customize dates. You only want to look at ones maybe in the last few days, or you know, you can change those filters to kind of show you what you want. And then you can print them all, or you can just mark them as printed. Maybe you know that these were given out and you did it a different way, and I want to just get them off my list. I'll just mark them as printed. So it'll tell the system that you printed them without actually doing so.
Right. And I might mention a lot of the letters that can be generated here might be a recall letter, it might be a welcome to the practice letter, you know, it could be removing, whatever the reason that you have to communicate with the patients. When you generate the letters, if you're going to do it in a way that it is a paper print, that you're going to drop the paper and mail out yourself, that's where this queue comes in handy. So there's a whole section of training available in practice and clinical letter generation that if anybody's interested in, let us know. We can either do a future webinar on it or help you individually.
Okay, so now we're going to move into the appointment section. The first list here is going to tell us how many appointments we have on our schedule. and it defaults to today's date. So we can see how many appointments we have for today. You can change these, so if you wanted to look at tomorrow, I don't think we have any on tomorrow's, but you can always go and look in the future. It's just kind of a quick way, instead of flipping through your schedule, you can kind of get a feel for how many patients you have on there, and you can kind of manage some things also. So anytime you have these little drop-it downs, you have actions that you can do for these. So maybe you enter visit information from the schedule. Instead of one of the ways that we do it is we can go on the schedule and go to each patient and pull that visit in to do so. This might be a quicker way for you to be able to do that, because we've got the visit over here, and then we can just have it all in a list instead of having to go down each schedule or flip through pages.
Right, and I think the other thing that makes this kind of functional is when we go to the schedule, if you're a one-doctor office, the difference between the schedule and this is not as pronounced. But if you have an office that might have 2, 3, 4 doctors or more, and you know, the schedule gets to be very busy, you can use the filters here to concentrate on one provider or one resource at a time, and you can, without having to continually click in, click around, you can confirm appointments, transfer them in. So it's actually, depending on what your front office staff is doing, this is a consideration for improved workflow over always going to that multicolored schedule that's kind of laid out in a grid.
Right. You can filter them by any one of these headers is how you can rearrange the way you see them. You want to look at them just, I want all of one doctors at a time. I want all the same appointment type regardless of who the doctor is or the provider, etc. So you can rearrange the list also in any way that helps you look at it the best way you want. Okay, the next one on the list is the wait list. What this is
before you show the wait list part, maybe you're going to already do this, so if so, excuse me, but I think one of the things that people may not even realize that is there is when you're creating an appointment, a lot of times the need for the wait list happens right when you're creating the appointment. You know, the patient wanted to be seen at an earlier time, but this was the best you could do. Right when you're booking the appointment, or if you view the appointment later, there's a little button to add the patient to the wait list. And if you don't know that that exists, you know, that's kind of the starting point for the wait list, and then you manage the wait list from the dashboard.
So thanks, Matt. So if we're going to add schedule an appointment for this patient, and we're like a week out, maybe we're even a couple of months out, you know, on our schedules are really full. And the patient is, you know, well, gosh, do you have anything sooner? If you have a cancellation, you know, can you work me in if somebody cancels, etc. Then what you do is there's this little box right here that says add to wait list. When you save the appointment, you'll get a box up here that'll let you kind of filter what type of appointment this patient is looking for. So what type of appointment it is, who the doctor is or the provider, and you could even say any. So maybe they're like, you know what, I don't care who I see, I just need to get in sooner. Days of the week, you know, maybe they're only available to come in on a Wednesday, etc., or certain time frames. So once you have established those kind of filters and saved it, oh, that's nice. It will then, or it should, put that patient on the wait list. So then the dashboard gives you a nice way to manage that list. So now you've got a couple of cancellations on your schedule. You want to keep the doctor's schedule full. So now you can come in here and it'll tell you who's on that wait list, and maybe there's a possible match for it. So Mr. Smith here has requested some kind of established patient visit with Dr. Houlihan, and there's a possible match on the 24th. So what you can do is you can view the appointment and reschedule it from there. You can look at phone numbers if you want to call the patient and say, oh, hey, Mr. Smith, we got an opening. Do you want to reschedule that to be able to come in a little sooner? We can edit the wait list criteria that we entered. We can delete it. Maybe he's like, yeah, never mind, I don't want that. So we can then delete it off of the list. Or we can go out and look for an appointment. If you say, find me all the upcoming appointments that fit the criteria that we entered for that. And then you can come down here and it'll show you a list of all the available appointments that might fit that criteria. So it can be really useful. Rather than having to flip through your schedule looking for those open slots. You have, you know, I know old-fashioned way is we all had a spiral notebook at the scheduling desk, and every time we had a cancellation or an open slot on a provider schedule, we'd go through that book and have to call a patient. So this puts it in a nice place, and it just helps you organize it and manage it a little bit easier. Any questions so far? Okay, the next one on our list is the appointment conflicts. And what this is if you have an appointment on your schedule that doesn't fit in the template that you've set up for your scheduling, it's going to throw that appointment into conflict. We do have filters here, so if you wanted to only look at just one provider at a time or one certain location, you can do that. It can kind of help you manage those a little better for a large office that's got lots of different pieces. If you've just one provider, then you probably wouldn't have to, but just know that they are available there. You've also got different kind of conflicts. We have availability conflicts that says, okay, maybe there was an appointment put on the schedule, and then all of a sudden the doc says, you know what, I'm coming in late that day. So that appointment is never going to, CareTracker will never take an appointment off the schedule. So the appointment is still there, but this is going to alert you that, hey, the doc's not going to be here. So you've got to do something with this appointment to reschedule it or correct it. You've also got sometimes location conflicts or forced appointments. You know, maybe you force an appointment in where that is outside of that template. The doctor says, you know what, that's okay, we're going to work them in at a time that I don't normally see patients, so we're going to work them in there. So you'll see any of these conflicts here, and from here you can cancel the appointment, you can reschedule it, either through the advanced option or through the book. So by clicking on any one of these choices, it takes us back to our schedule, and then we can look and reschedule that appointment to a place that fits better into what the provider needs, what we have our template set at.
And one of the things that you may from time to time have seen on your schedule and not really understood what was going on, you can get on this view right here, you get a little red blinking light right next to, I can't remember, is it the provider or the office or the date, but a little red blinking light there, that is telling you that in that particular column there is a conflict. So you've kind of got two ways to do it. Hopefully someone's actually looking at those conflicts on the dashboard and managing those, but if they're not, you may bump into it with that little red blinking light, and it's something that left unattended, you could either end up with an unhappy patient who comes in and they can't be handled, or an unhappy provider where you didn't realize it, but you double booked on something, or you booked a provider in surgery while you had a patient showing up in the office. So it's definitely worth understanding that those appointment conflicts left unresolved are going to present themselves as an unhappy patient at some point.
Matt?
Yes.
Hello?
Hi.
Usually that comes up when my nurse has entered some surgeries into the scheduler, and sometimes when I try to move it over, it won't move.
Okay.
So I just go ahead and post my visit from that part. That doesn't make any difference, does it?
It does not, no. So that,
okay.
The closing the visit, all that still gets the billing done. And it sounds like that's kind of, you're dealing with that kind of after the appointment has come and gone as well.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So this is more of a getting ahead of it before it happens.
Oh, yeah,
and
okay.
so when you brought up the, if you were managing the conflicts and you had that conflict, that might be one of those where you're just going to ignore it, right? It's okay. You don't,
Okay.
you're not going to change it.
Yeah, it always happens with our surgeries usually because of our template. So
Okay. Well, I
it's
tell you,
not
if you
that
have
big
any
deal.
of those, Linda, that you'd like Cheryl to take a look up, that'll give you a chance to use that support queue and
Okay.
send her a message, and she'd be happy to look at it for you.
Okay.
Yeah, perhaps we can look at it and fix it so it doesn't always throw them into conflict.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah, this is Debbie, Matt, with Dr. McQueen's office. I was wondering the same thing. A lot of our scheduling has changed a lot, and I wondered if we could change our template ourselves, or do we make a request?
You can definitely change it, and there's a whole training session on schedule templates. It is definitely designed for you to be able to do yourself, and highly recommend that at least one person in each office become familiar with how to do that, because schedules sometimes get changed just one day here and one day there. And it's
Right.
super easy. Once you understand how it's built, it is really easy to make the change. If you're fumbling in and trying to teach yourself on the go, it is very confusing the first time through. Cheryl can just take away all that confusion.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. One other thing before we move on to far from this is when you see those flashing lights up here, the red flashing things, a lot of times if your view is looking at several doctors at once or several days at once, you're going to see that red flashing on every one of them. So sometimes you might need to narrow it down to figure out where it is causing that conflict. So instead of all providers, you might just say, okay, I just want to see Dr. Dunn's schedule here. And then if his is not flashing, then maybe it's the next one over. So if you narrow that down, because when you see those flashing things, you see it all across whatever you're looking at on your view. So it helps sometimes to kind of narrow it down to find out where it is. But that's why also this nice list up here, whoops, I need to go home. This nice list up here is very helpful because you don't have to go through all that. You can just immediately see where it is, who the patient is, who the provider is, etc. And then fix it if we need to. We don't always have to fix everyone. Maybe you know that it's outside your schedule template and you're okay with that, but at least it does alert you, like Matt said, you don't have unhappy patients and you don't have unhappy providers because there is an appointment somewhere that the schedule's changed and your doctor's maybe not there or something like that. The next one down is patient portal appointment request, and again, similar to the patient portal updates, this is the same thing. If you're participating in the portal and you have turned on this feature, it will allow you to look at the request. And I thought we should have one in here. Let me look at just closed. Maybe we resolved it. You know what?
That could have been me again.
Or it could have been the one we just did when we looked at that wait list. But anyway, you will get a list in here. My apologies. You will get a list in here of any patients that have gone on the portal and requested an appointment. Similar to the demographic changes, you do have to approve it. So they have the ability to choose a lot of different criteria. What doctor do they want to see, if any particular one, the days, just like when we looked at the wait list, they're going to see something very similar to that. You know, what time is good for them, what day works for them, what provider they want to see, and then you'll get that in here, and then it allows you to go and look at your schedule, and it'll give you a link here that you could actually schedule that appointment or look for appointments that fit their request, and then it will send a message back through the portal to let them know that that appointment has been scheduled.
And this is something that you would have to turn on at the company level. So just because you've registered patients for the patient portal and just because they've logged on doesn't mean they have the ability to update their demographics or request appointments. You would have to turn that feature on if you want to leverage it. We recommend doing so. Cuts down on phone calls, but it's something that wouldn't just happen without you turning it on.
Cheryl and I did just send a request. If you want to refresh, maybe it would be there.
Thank you, Miranda.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Miranda. So there we go. So now we see Mr. Smith here has gone in and requested an appointment, and he wants a follow-up. He can do it any time on any day with this provider. And then we have our functions here that we can look at. So clicking on him is going to bring him into context. We can send him back a message. We can search for an appointment that will fit his request. And then once we find one, we can go ahead and book it. So it saves you a lot of time. I can't remember, was it a follow-up? And then it can send him back a message to say, okay, your appointment has been booked. It'll save you a little bit of time on the phones. And again, like Matt said, these are features that you can choose to turn on. The patient portal has a lot of different choices, so you can kind of pick and choose which ones work best for your practice. Any questions there? Thank you, Miranda, for adding that one on so we could at least see what it looked like. And again, we do have filters if we wanted to just look at one particular provider, we want to look at just one location, things like that. The next one we have are expired reoccurring appointments, and this may be like the wait list. When you're booking appointments, and so we'll go ahead and do Mr. Smith an appointment here. We have the ability, if you've got a patient that is managing some kind of chronic condition and they need regular appointments, you can book them all at one time instead of going out and doing like 6 of them separately. So one of the fields down here is a reoccurring appointment, and it defaults to single, but maybe we want to change it and say, this gentleman needs to come in weekly, and we can either give it an end date or we can tell it how many visits he needs. So if we're going to say he needs 3 visits once a week, when you save that, it's going to go ahead and we're trying to put this where it doesn't belong, but it'll go ahead and it'll save that 3 weeks out. So it'll make all 3 appointments at once. It does let us know if he's got any other appointments on the schedule or any other family members have appointments on the schedule. So it'll kind of give you a little bit of a, here's what he's got going on already that maybe you need to use one of those instead of booking them. Then what happens when you come on here, this will let you know if you've got some that are coming up that are past due or about to expire. So it's going to tell you the last reoccurring for this patient is on May 1, and maybe we need to, do we need to set that out for another 6 weeks, or, you know, do we need to manage it, or is she finished maybe with that course of treatment and we don't need to make those reoccurring appointments anymore. So it's a nice feature if you've got patients that are coming in on a regular basis to manage a chronic condition. You can do it instead of going out and booking 6 appointments. You can do it all at once with just one little click. Any questions so far on the appointment part? I know we're kind of getting close to our time, so I'll try to move on a little quicker.
Is there a way to print that list when you do multiples at once?
I do not
But
think...
there's always right-click print, no matter where you go. So that
okay, great.
In terms of a formatted, what you'd be looking for a formatted print would be a little print button within it. And I don't know, was that in the there wasn't an action for that. So closest you're going to get would be right-click print here.
Right. So I mean, you always can right-click print on any screen, and it'll print exactly what you see, but it's not always real pretty. So, but it's always there.
Now, one of the things I will say is there's nothing wrong with printing the list and working from it, but the system is designed to save you the hassle of working from paper. And when you're working from the dynamic list that's generated, things like clicking on the name bring the patient into context, and it's just the whole design is to save you time. But if you need to print it and hand it out and ask questions, that you absolutely can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on now into the visit section. We've got here under missing encounters, we've got charges and visits, and it helps to kind of understand, first of all, what a visit is versus a charge. So when a patient is on the schedule, CareTracker is going to go and look for a charge to associate with that appointment. A visit is kind of what I like to think of is kind of the super bill part of it. That's the part that you filled out all the charges, or you've put in this is what I want to charge, but it hasn't yet been turned into a charge yet. And then once you've turned it into a charge, then it can go out the door as a claim. So coming in here, we can leave our beginning open-ended, and we can change the ending date. It usually defaults to yesterday's date, but that can be changed also. Maybe you only want to look at the end of the previous month to make sure you're capturing all those charges, whatever the case might be. You can also filter by provider location. Now what happens with these, so visits, yes, tells us that the provider or whoever is entering the visit information has done their part, but the biller hasn't yet turned it into a charge. So visit, yes, that part has been entered. Charges, no, it hasn't. When we push go, we're going to see our patient up here, and then we can go in and we can turn this into a charge here. Oh, I don't have a batch open. We can turn it into a charge. I'm going to do this real quick. So then what we'll see are all the details that whoever entered the visit information, the CPT codes, diagnosis codes, if we need to add a modifier to that, anything we need to do. Once we save it, it will then turn that into a charge and it's ready to go out as a claim. Now the other piece of that is the visits. And when we click in there, we get kind of the same snapshot, but it's telling us the visits are no. So what this tells us is that visit piece hasn't yet been entered. So somebody's got to go in there and tell us what CPT code, what diagnosis code, all that. So these are patients that are on the schedule that don't have any visit information entered for them yet. Now because I'm a channel partner, I have this nice little mark build button over here that most of you will not see, and that just lets us know that even though that appointment is there, we're going to take it off this list. Most of the time though, what you want to do is either go in and enter the visit information, you can cancel the appointment, maybe the patient was a no-show and it didn't get taken off your schedule, and then this link, the link button is, okay, there was an appointment on that day for this patient. Maybe somebody went in and manually entered the charge. Instead of doing it as a visit, we just did a manual charge entry, and those two haven't been linked together. So by pushing the link button, we're telling the system that those charges that were entered should be linked with that appointment that's on the schedule, so it satisfies that requirement to have a bill for that appointment. Okay, and again, we can get into lots of details with that, so I'm just going to kind of give you that high-level overview of how this works, but if any of you want more information, we can certainly get into it a little bit more. The next two on our list are admissions, and this is designed for those charges or those patients that we're following that aren't going to be on our schedule. Most of the time they might be hospital admissions or hospital visits, but they can be things such as maybe home visits or things like that that you're not adding them on the schedule. It allows you to go in there and add the patient in inpatient or outpatient, and then what it does is it lets you know that you're missing, did you see that patient today? You've missed today's charge for rounding at the hospital, or, something. So it lets you track those. We have, you can edit the admission from here. We can remove it. we can say, oh, this patient's been discharged. So maybe your provider didn't tell you, I discharged patient 2 days ago, and it keeps flagging you saying, hey, you missed your charges for these last 2 hospital visits, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, discharge him. We can enter visit information from here. We can enter a note to say we didn't see the patient on this day, so we're not going to charge for that. And then we can look at the history also of all of it.
And this is a wonderful tool for anybody who has an item that's billed out that is not related to an appointment. So as an example, we have one of our clients is in the allergy specialty, and they actually create their on-site the I can't remember what it's called, the injection material, and so they need a way to track that they need to bill for those, and the patient doesn't have an appointment that it's tied to, and so they use the admission functionality to make sure they don't miss billing for any of those compounds that they create. Similarly, surgery practices that have to see patients in the hospital for follow-up, it's a good idea to make sure you've got them tracked there, because every once in a while you have a complication that's billable, or if you're primary care and you actually are rounding, this piece is invaluable because it basically allows the providers to see who they need to round with that day.
So this first one tells us the open admissions. These are the ones that are open on our list. The next one down here is going to tell us, are we missing any? So, you know, are we missing any days that haven't been entered in, or are we missing any charges? So maybe we've got some patients on that list that we didn't enter charges on. The last two we have are visits on hold and charges on hold. So again, we need to remember the difference between a visit and a charge. So if they're going in and you're entering in the visit information and you're not quite ready to send that off to the biller for whatever reason, you can put it on hold. Or sometimes the claim scrubber will put it on hold for you. You know, if the provider is entering the visit information, and this one, for example, I'm going to tell it to edit so we can kind of look at what it looks like. Provider's entering the information, and it bumps up against this claim edit that you tried to use an old code, it looks like. Then it's going to pop up and let you know that you've got something wrong with that. And so your choices are to place it on hold, override. Most of the billers will have the override ability to say, I just want to override that claims manager edit, or you can go back and edit it and fix that. Obviously, we wouldn't want to let this one be overrided because we're trying to bill it out with an old code, so we would want to go in there and edit that and change it. But a lot of times the providers might just place it on hold and say, have my biller fix that for me because I don't know what the new code's supposed to be. So we have the same thing as charges on hold. If you're going through and you're working on charges and some kind of question comes up that you might need to go back and get more information or whatever the case might be, it kind of takes that one charge and separates it from the rest of your batch. So you can post your batch and bill out the remaining of the charges, but we want to set this one aside, so it puts it on hold and we set it aside until we can go back and figure out either what's wrong with it or if we need to get some more information from the provider or whoever might be responsible to make sure we send it out as a clean claim the first time. So we're going to eliminate a lot of those rejections and things like that. Claims manager edit, you know, you can always kind of tell that they're in red or yellow. Yellow is just kind of a caution, and the red's going to tell you something's wrong with this, so you want to fix that before you send it out. And again, when you're doing those charges and you get the pop-up, you have the ability to say, let me just put that on hold, and then I can come back and work those later, and let me get the rest of them out the door. So just like its name, it is just kind of a holding place for those that need a little bit more attention.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Cheryl.
Now, do you all, if they're on hold, they are scrubbed through PRS, right? Like my surgery tickets, because I always put my surgery tickets on hold.
So anything visits or charges are always going to go through the embedded claim scrubber.
Okay.
So nothing can get through without going through the scrub. Now, whether you ignore the edits, that's that override function. So and we don't have the edits turned on for everyone. I suspect that the claim scrubber is turned off for you in the front end, and that it's only on for billers in the Oklahoma scenario, but I don't know that. But you absolutely can turn it on. Most practices don't want to annoy their providers with the edits, and so they usually insert some middle step. We think it actually is a good thing to have providers knowing, so that they can learn and change their coding habits based on those edits. And I might add, you can change the edits. You can write custom edits. You can have edits that normally come up turned off for your practice. It's very, very flexible. Should I go ahead and switch?
They are scrubbed at 3 different levels. So you get when the provider enters the visit, it'll scrub it then if that one is turned on. It'll scrub it again when it's turned into a charge, and then again when the claim goes out, it'll go through that again. So you have 3 steps where that scrubbing process takes place. And like Matt said, it is flexible that you can have them turned on or off at any of those levels.
I always like somebody checking my work. So.
I agree with you. We would highly recommend to have them on, because then it is a very useful tool.
So let me real quick do the last slide, and then I'll pass it back to you, Cheryl.
I am going to, are you, okay.
So thank you for the live demo. The tips and tricks, just real quick, just some of the things that we've had, bumped our head against the wall and had hours down the rabbit hole. If we can impart any of these few things to save you that same exercise, then it'll be worthwhile. Just a couple of things. One is monitor if you're going to use the dashboard, monitor it regularly, because it's amazing how quick things can come up. And there is a PM task sheet that's in help that will give some suggestions around the frequency that these need to be monitored. More or less, the front office dashboard is pretty much you should be looking at everything on there daily. When you're moving things around and you're using to-dos and you're working on claims, there is a status within the claims, and this is kind of one layer deeper than what we've seen here. But to know that combining the dashboard with to-dos to do inter-office communication to try and clear up claim-specific items and statuses around claims can really transform your workflow. So we've got, if anybody's interested, once you get used to using the dashboard, we can kind of go into what we mean by the leveraging to-dos and statuses. Another thing to keep in mind is that in general, but not across the board, in general, the dashboard numbers are a snapshot. Now, as you saw with what Cheryl was working in, some of those, they actually were real-time. Some of those are real-time, but be in the mindset of if I've got a number up there, maybe the number is like 10 or 15 or something like that, I click in and it's different, maybe there are more or they're less, it's just because some of the numbers on the dashboard are not real-time updated. It's just a kind of a screen print of what was there the night before. However, when you link into when you jump into the link by clicking on that blue hyperlink, the information you're getting is real-time. The other thing, best advice I can give you is understand the workflow, because timing is everything. If you're spending time on the dashboard but you're not ahead of when the billing happens, or you're not talking to the patient when they're in the office, you review it after they've left and it's like, oh my goodness, I had missing information. It still gives you visibility, but getting some routine down where you're doing the things that require patient contact before the patient comes in, and when you're doing the things that require communication with the provider before the provider is done with it, that'll be very helpful. Also, just in general, if you have not been using the dashboard and what you see here is something you'd like to use, keep in mind that it's going to mean change for your staff. Your front desk person that has, for the last 3 years, done things a certain way, we now are going to introduce a different way of looking at it and thinking of it. Just keep in mind that you want to roll these things out strategically. We can help you with that if need be. So with that, let me pass it back to Cheryl, and she can handle your questions that anybody has, and we'll stick around as long as there are questions. So Cheryl, there you go. Back to you.
Sorry, I had muted myself and didn't unmute. Yeah, does anybody have any questions that we can answer?
I don't have any right now, but if we have some, we can always send you a message, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep,
Okay.
send us support to do, and we'll jump on it.
Okay.
We're going to get off the hook easy. All right. All right. Questions going once? Questions going twice? Last call? All righty. Well, thank you, everybody, for participating. We very much appreciate it. It's your participation that makes it worthwhile. Look for future announcements about upcoming webinars. And thanks
Thank
again.
you very much.